Hey there, innovators. Today we're going to be trying out an awesome project that explores chemistry. We're going to create a solution made out of sugar in order to form sugar crystals. Now, the great thing about this project is that it's not only this cool chemistry project, but it's also a fun snack for you to eat. So, let's check out what materials we need and let's get started.
Alright, so as you can see, you don't need a whole lot of materials. You'll need some sugar, you'll need a measuring cup, you'll need a good pair of scissors, some popsicle sticks or barbecue skewers, yarn, tape, and a good glass jar or glass. Okay, seems like we are ready to go.
All right, so innovators, we have all the materials that we need. And as you can tell, we don't need much. We're going to need some sugar, some water, and a couple of jars, and a popsicle stick or just a regular barbecue stick. If you don't have a barbecue stick or a popsicle stick, you can also just use a piece of strong string. What you want is you want something to go into the solution that we're making so that the crystals form around that. So let's grab our materials. Let's head into the kitchen. Now we are going to be boiling some water, so this may be a great time to ask an adult for help. All right, let's get to work.
So for the first step, you are going to set your measuring cup, and you're going to need about 1.5 cups of sugar. Okay. And you want to make sure that it's no less than 1.5 cups. That looks pretty good. All right. So now we're going to add some hot boiling water. The hotter the water, the better, because it'll help dissolve the sugar. So you're going to need about 1/2 cup, and you are going to pour it in small amounts. And you're just going to stir the sugar until it all dissolves in your water. Now the important trick here is that you want there to be more sugar than there is water. So for my 1.5 cups of sugar, I'm going to use a little bit less than 1/2 cup. You want to make sure that your ratios are 3:1. 3 parts sugar and 1 part hot water. So I'll keep stirring gently and do this carefully. Make sure you have the assistance of an adult to boil some water. And the sugar should start dissolving. If it's too thick, you just add a little bit more, but make sure that you don't use more than 1/2 cup of water. All right, I'll keep stirring, and that looks pretty good. Let's take another look at it. Perfect. It's got a nice liquid consistency, and we're ready to move on. Now, one of the most important parts of our project is you need something that's dipping into the sugar. That's going to allow the sugar to crystallize around this thing. In my case, I'm going to use a popsicle stick, but you can use a barbecue skewer or even a good piece of thread. Cooking thread would be great. So I'm going to tie my piece of string over my popsicle stick, and I'm going to use some tape to secure it in place. Okay, and here is my first strip. I'm going to put one on each side just to make sure that it doesn't fall off. And again, you'll have to modify this depending on whether you use a popsicle stick, a barbecue skewer, or whether you're just using another piece of thread. So I am going to secure this. Great. It should be sturdy. There we go. And now it's time to pour our sugar solution into a glass jar. I'm using a mason jar. And I'm going to take my sugar solution. As you can tell, it's a lot more clear now. More of the sugar has dissolved. And I've also let it cool down just a bit. Now, this is the perfect time to give it some color if you want your sugar crystals to have a certain color. So I'm going to use a little bit of this blue food coloring and a drop of this green food coloring. Now, this is totally optional. It's not a necessary step. But again, if you want to give a little color to your sugar crystals, then this is the time to add it. Get a nice green color, and I'm going to stir it in, and that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour the solution into my mason jar. So I'm going to do that carefully. By this point, my solution is warm, it's not hot, so I can safely handle the mason jar. So make sure if your solution is way too hot that you set it aside for a few minutes to cool down. Now, the next step is going to involve putting my popsicle stick into the solution. I want it to be in there, immersed at least a few inches. So I'm going to lay the piece of string over the top, and I'm going to use a little bit of Scotch tape to secure it in place, just to make sure that it doesn't fall over. So starting on one side, I'll secure my piece of string. Then I will go to the other side and I'll do the same thing. Now, if you're dipping a piece of thread or string into the solution, you're fine. But if you are using a wooden stick or a popsicle stick, make sure that it is upright. Okay, so I think I'm good. And let's take a closer look. All right, it's right in the center, and it's dipped in there.
Now that was a lot of fun. So what we've created in the kitchen is a super saturated solution, meaning that in this liquid there is much more sugar than there is water. The reason that your crystals will start to form is because there is less space for those sugar molecules to bounce around and move. So they'll start to crash into each other, forming those crystals. The great thing is that we're giving them somewhere to grow onto. So by either putting a popsicle stick or a piece of string in there, you're giving those molecules something to cling on to. And so they'll keep crashing into it, building up those crystals. Now, an interesting thing is that when molecules tend to clump up together, they do so in patterns. So you'll notice that your sugar crystals have these really incredible geometric patterns that kind of form naturally. Again, this supersaturated solution is causing the molecules to crash and to form crystals. Now, set this in a dry space, and we're going to give it a few days, and let's see what we come up with.
Now, you want to make sure that the stick or the string are in the solution. This is very important. The crystals will start forming around it in just a few days. Ooh, looks good.
Innovators, we did awesome work today. Good job. Now, set your jar aside because you're going to need to give it a few days in order for those crystals to form. You'll start to notice them come together around the popsicle stick or the piece of string. And you may also notice that some crystals will form along the top of your jar. If they do, it's okay to pick those and eat them. Okay, this is a solution made out of sugar water and a little bit of food coloring. Now, this is a great project to experiment with. You can use design thinking to change the colors of your crystals. You can also add some flavoring. So if you have drops of different types of flavor, you can add those to your solution and they'll kind of embed into the sugar crystals. Now, don't worry, it'll take a few days, but when it's done, you're gonna have some sweet and delicious snacks, sugar crystal snacks. So, thanks for watching the video, and remember to always think creatively and think critically. Make sure you catch the rest of them. Bye.